during that time. Followed General Heck, who departed with Deputy Corps Commander. Then he departed to White House to be assistant to Secretary Kissinger. And after him, I have an M.C. Russ, another colonel who also became a lieutenant general, retired, a distinguished soldier and leader of men. So that was finally who, under his command, I retired September 1969 with a Corps review with a great honor. And when Vice Chief of Staff, Bruce Palmer, General Palmer arrived to present me award to Second Legion of Merit. And that was good to see him because I know General Palmer when he commanded the 16th Infantry in the 1st Division during maneuvers and training at Grafenwohr, Germany. And so that was rewarding. And also there was a homecoming game during this review, about 40,000 people on reviewing stands, and me to standing on a playground to be honored. And that's always will be memorable to me for the respect I received from the Corps and the personnel with whom I serve. And upon the prior departing from the Corps, while being in the Corps, 1966, received a call from Pentagon that I report to Chief of Staff Office. I will be flying to Vietnam to visit the troops as they request my presence before they depart, because 1 year service, they'll be departing to States. To me, I was more delighted and honored that the soldiers remember me. Of course, they have 2 or 3 other sergeant majors, but I was the one whom they knew. The NCOs and soldiers saw arrive at Chief of Staff in Saigon, and General Westmoreland welcomed everybody. Arriving, I look at General Westmoreland, and I mentioned it's a long way from El Guitarra to the steaming jungles of Vietnam, and you look at me with a quiz in his eyes, who am I? Which some couple of years later, I was able to talk to him about of their acquaintance when he was supporting the 3rd Battalion, 26th Infantry in El Guitar with his artillery then. And so I arrived in an area that 1st Brigade, 26th Infantry was in the 1st Brigade, on a close area, Phuc Vinh, close to Cambodia border, commanded then by Colonel Sid Berry, who later became also superintendent at West Point, and under his command, when he started receiving a female cadet to be implemented in West Point. So by being over there, I was able to meet all the soldiers, and I, for 3 days in a base camp, I briefed to the soldiers on the history of the 26th Infantry and their achievement. By the same token, while being over there and seeing the soldiers possibly from country, cities, and other urban location from country in the States, and being myself a jungleers in Panama, 3840 in the jungles, which I crossed the isthmus, and have the opportunity to sleep with a very dangerous snake, and eliminating him later, and looking those boys over here in the jungle, I felt that they should have an acquaintance with jungle for 6 months or longer to be capable to carry out the duty, because in the jungle, fighting is much different than you're fighting in the open terrain. And also at the same time, my thoughts went to the various weapons which we have at that time, from M1 to M14 and M16. I would say the M16 was suitable for the jungles which they fought at that time. But however, also there was discussion in case we be committed in an open terrain, therefore M16 would not be able to accomplish the mission which the soldier would desire to reach longer, because the M14 carried the cartridge of M1 rifle. However, you have more rounds. I really enjoyed the short tour which we having in our possession, the M14. Very fine weapons. Of course, I don't know why we're not becoming a weapons of the organization in the various outfits. So we stick with the M16. And being in the jungle, and I was just thinking for the leaders to go out, and the change which they have it, that the people be going home and new replacements come in. It takes, to develop a good working unit, you have to be together for a minimum 6 months, so you know your leaders, you know men and so forth. And I noticed that in Vietnam, the replacements coming in, the squad leader didn't know how long this individual was with him or the other one. That short of tours and the quick implementation of replacements led to the point of not having the cohesiveness as you would have it on other circumstances in a level of unit, which they possibly later tried to implement in the Army, implement platoons or company as training together to arrive as being together, so that case could be everybody know each other. But Vietnam gave us a lesson, and by the same token, the terrain which they fought and the sacrifices which they pay due to which will require more training and to survive under those conditions which they fought at that time. So I, being up there in the jungle to see myself the climate and all the demands for the soldiers to go out, where the civilized soldiers of our quality with the equipment which you have to carry, and comparison to an individual we fought, the VC, which you have a rice little back on his side and pajamas and sandals over them, and bolt action weapons so far, or maybe the other weapons, he's very dangerous because he can camouflage and move like a snake between those branches and whatnot, whereas a soldier of our stature with all the equipment he has to carry, he walked through the woods like an elephant going through the jungle. So that was the problem, which we lost so much men with from those alert individuals which we fought over them. The short tour which I spent in Vietnam, it gave me outlook that the situation wasn't easy to overcome the difficulty. By the same token, the air superiority which we have, and I was just thinking where we have it in Africa to Vietnam, and it's such that we have it in all respect. Everything else when we need was available to us, and yet with sustained casualty to such, 58 plus thousands right now resting on those walls in Washington. For my own outfit, from 26 infantry, 5 years in Vietnam, they had 300 KIAs, which I work on those casualty myself. And many of those individuals throughout the division, their life was foolishly lost due to not proper control and to have a safety measure to prevent from catastrophe to take place. Also, with the Vietnam, and now as our troops returned victorious from the desert of a storm of Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Kuwait liberation, I'm just thinking about, I witnessed such desert storm myself many years ago, which the soldiers not being in existence, although they will serve in the army, which I have a storm one time blowing, which caused a red storm, a sand that get in your face, looks like you've been crying, even water in the canteen becoming red. So I would find myself, and I was wondering, I think when the storm up there, which they stated that there's season for storms, I feel pity for some individual to be exposed in open terrain. By the same token, of air power, which we have it now. And I know what they can do, because I know when the planes dropping bombs and being in a dugout up there, I would say there are thousands of them individual in Iraq over there right now, being buried over there, shell shock and psychoneurosis, because I know what it means, collapse your lungs without even being hit or anything else. So this is the results of it. And I'm also really proud to see the welcome the soldiers receiving today, returning from Saudi Arabia, from Desert Storm and initially Desert Shield, those who served a short term. We started the war in 1942. I started the war and I finished on the 8th November 42 when I finally shot fire in Czechoslovakia. That was 8 May 1945. But being in a combat today, we do have now, for future wars, leaders in all levels, non-commissioned officers and those young soldiers who will possibly becoming a senior non-commissioned officers 15, 20 years from today, plus all the officers who are junior in platoon level in the company. When they become a general staff officers, we do have an ample quality of individual to perform a fighting, I would say, in the desert. There will be some small amount yet from jungles. And this is what of keeping country a freedom, that we have the facility. We're shirking our army now to such size, will be not demanding to have so much, but by the same token, We cannot terminate everybody because we haven't have the nucleus of leadership in all level. With the modern weapons forthcoming, and so far this is required the knowledge for the individuals to operate.
Sergeant Major, I'm reminded in this long conversation that we've had that have spanned many wars that although each war seems to be a little bit different in its character, there are many things that are the same from war to war. You've mentioned a half a dozen or so just in our conversation.
True, sir. As a matter of fact, today I took a picture of on a street where I live, one individual fellow who served in a 79 Division World War II, and he's a commander of mine, a Purple Heart Club, which you have at 142. He have a daughter in a Desert Storm, so there's a big sign in front of his house. She arrived, she was in the special services, and she spent in a Desert Storm. A beautiful sign, Captain Carter, welcome, and this is what people are receiving. It's a very, make an individual feel that he's proud of it, that the nation appreciates his participation over there. We try to establish more likely a freedom in the country being obsessed by a dictator, ruthless, who destroying people on the drop of his hand with gases and biological warfare. And we have to eliminate individuals like that from position where the freedom can be established in this country and turbulence exists with the guidance of a great nation, the United States. And of course, we must have a strong Army, Air Force, and other branch of service, and the Navy. Also, you cannot forget the Marines because they've done a pretty good job.
Sergeant Major, I think we'll stop at this point. I thank you very much for your comments and observations.
It's my privilege to refresh my memory, the discussion on the subject of the profession where you play the game for keeps.
Thanks very much.
They've got.